My wife cheated on me with her boss, then stole $250, $0 from our joint account to fund their affair. Now she's claiming half of our house and suing me for custody. But I just found out she's been secretly planning to sell everything behind my back. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything. It all started with little signs, small things that didn't seem like much at first. My wife had always been a bit of a drama queen, but lately she'd become more irritable, distant even. She'd come home late from work more often, claiming she was working late or had to meet clients. She'd brush off my questions with a sharp tone, saying I was overreacting or that I was just paranoid. But I was. Something felt off, like I was missing pieces of a puzzle I couldn't quite put together. Then last month I noticed her phone kept lighting up at odd hours, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, messages that seemed more flirtatious than professional. She'd hide her phone whenever I walked into the room, clutching it like it was a lifeline. I started paying more attention, and that's when I saw the pattern. She was texting someone late at night, sometimes in the bathroom or when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but deep down I knew something was wrong. One day I decided to check her phone without her knowing. I know, sneaky, but I was desperate for answers. I found a string of messages, flirty, intimate, downright inappropriate. She was having sex with her boss, David, and it had been going on for months. They'd been sneaking around, lying about where she was, and even hiding receipts of trips she took for work. The worst part, I stumbled upon a message where she was planning to sell our house and split the proceeds with David. She'd been secretly plotting to leave me, to run away with her affair partner and take everything we had. That moment hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this to me? We built a life together, or so I thought. I never suspected she'd be capable of such betrayal, especially not involving our home, our savings, everything we worked for. I looked at the evidence, my hands trembling, heart pounding. It was like I'd been hit by a freight train. She lied so effortlessly, spun all these ridiculous stories about how she was just stressed or how I was paranoid. But I was. I knew the truth now, and it was worse than I ever imagined. The thing is, she's always been a master manipulator. She's bitchy, quick to lie, and she's got this way of making me feel like I'm overreacting, like I'm the crazy one. She's always been good at hiding her true self behind a smile or a fake laugh, but I saw through it now. I saw her for who she really is, someone who can cheat, steal, and lie without a second thought. And what hurts even more is that she's trying to turn this around on me, claiming I'm overreacting or that I'm the one who's been controlling her. She's saying I'm paranoid, that she's innocent, that I'm just insecure. But I know better. I saw the messages. I saw the evidence. That's when I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I confronted her that night, and the fight was intense. She everything at first tried to gaslight me, said I was imagining things or that I was jealous. She told me she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about David, about the affair, about the money she stole. Her face turned white, then red with anger. She yelled, called me names, accused me of being paranoid and possessive. She insisted she was innocent, that I was making all this up. But I had the proof, screenshots, bank statements, receipts that told a different story. The emotional fallout was brutal. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, then kicked again. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that, cheat with her boss, and then steal our money to fund her affair? I've never felt so broken, so betrayed in my life. I kept replaying everything in my head, her lies, her sneers, the way she looked at David like he was the only man in the world. I felt a mix of rage and sadness, and honestly, I didn't know what to do next. I've always believed in marriage, in working through problems, but this was something else entirely. I realized I had to decide whether I was going to forgive her or fight back, and I knew deep down I couldn't just let this go. Not without consequences. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept replaying her words, her lies, the way she looked at David like he was her salvation. I started digging into our bank accounts, trying to understand how much she'd taken. The shocking part was the amount: $250, zero gone from our joint account. That's more than I ever thought she'd steal, and it made me realize just how deep her betrayal went. She didn't just cheat. She robbed us blind to keep her affair alive. I found out she'd been funneling money into secret accounts, buying expensive gifts for David, paying for trips, even paying off her credit cards with the stolen cash. I was furious. I called the bank, froze our accounts, and started gathering all the financial evidence I could find. I wanted to see how far she'd gone, how much damage she'd done. The more I looked, the more. I realized she'd planned this for months, probably since she started her affair. She'd been sneaking around, hiding her tracks, and I was just now catching up. Meanwhile, was still insisting she was innocent. She'd say things like, "You're overreacting. It's just a misunderstanding," or "You're crazy if you think I'd do something like that." She'd cry, get defensive, and then turn around and accuse me of controlling her, of being jealous. She'd say I was paranoid for checking her phone or her bank statements, but I knew better. I had the receipts, the proof. Still, her lies kept coming and her attitude was bitchy, dismissive. She'd sneer at me, tell me I was just insecure, that I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. The worst part was her claim that she was just stressed at work, that David was just a friend and I was overthinking it. Yeah, right. Like a boss at her company, a guy who's been sleeping with her is just a friend. I saw the texts, the photos she sent to him, the plans they made to meet up. She even told him she wanted to leave me, to sell the house, split the money, and start fresh with him. That's when I knew she had no intention of stopping. She'd been planning her escape and using me as a backup, even as she kept up the facade of being the perfect wife. The emotional toll was overwhelming. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How could I have been so blind? I thought I knew her, but she turned out to be someone else entirely. I was furious at her, but also at myself for not catching on earlier. I started questioning everything: our life, our marriage, the vows we took. I kept asking myself, how could I trust someone who's been stealing from me, lying to my face, and sleeping with her boss behind my back? The pain was almost unbearable. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal with no way out. In the days that followed, I focused on gathering more evidence and figuring out what to do next. I knew I had to confront her again, this time with everything laid bare. But I also knew I couldn't just let her walk over me. She'd already taken so much: our money, my trust, our marriage. I started thinking about the future, about how to protect myself and what I deserved. I realized I'd have to fight for everything: my dignity, my money, my home. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I also started to understand that her bitchy attitude and constant lies were her way of controlling the situation, of trying to make me doubt myself. But I was done doubting. I decided I'd take legal action. I wanted her out of the house, get her served with divorce papers, and start the process of reclaiming what was ours. I also wanted to expose her affair, not just for myself, but because I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation to her advantage. She'd probably claim she was innocent, that I was the bad guy. But I had the proof: screenshots, bank statements, everything. I was ready to fight her in court, to show everyone what kind of person she really was. This was no longer about just betrayal. It was about standing up for myself, taking back control. Honestly, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I went from being a guy who believed in the sanctity of marriage to someone who's now fighting for his life, his future, and his sanity. The betrayal has left scars I don't think will ever fully heal. But I do know this: I won't be a victim. I'll fight for what's right, for what I deserve. And I hope somehow I'll come out of this stronger. Because right now, I feel like I've been broken into 1,000 pieces. After I gathered enough evidence and started making plans to take legal action, I realized I had to act fast. Was still acting like everything was fine, but I knew better. She was scheming behind my back, trying to hide her tracks even more. I caught her sneaking into the home office late at night, probably trying to erase messages or shred documents. She was bitchy about it, snapping at me when I asked what she was doing, calling me paranoid again. But I wasn't falling for her lies anymore. I knew she was planning something, maybe to sell the house secretly, or to move her affair partner into the house once I was gone. One day, I decided to do some digging into Her plans. I found out she'd been meeting with a real estate agent, someone she'd secretly contacted without telling me. She was talking about selling everything, getting rid of the house and starting fresh. She even had a list of things she wanted to sell: our furniture, our cars, even the jewelry I gave her on our wedding day. The more I found out, the angrier I got. She was trying to pull a fast one, planning to leave me high and dry with nothing. And she had the audacity to lie to my face about it, claiming she was just trying to fix her career, or that I was making things worse by accusing her. Her excuses didn't hold water. I saw through her bullshit. She'd been planning her escape for months, selling the house behind my back, secretly talking to agents, trying to hide it all from me. I confronted her again, this time with the evidence I'd gathered. I told her I knew about her plans, about the money she stole, and her affair. Her response was classic, defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. She told me I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid and controlling, that she loved me and would never do anything to hurt me, but I didn't believe her. I had the proof and I was ready to use it. I also learned she'd been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, more than I initially realized. She taken out huge sums in cash, probably to fund her plans. I found receipts for expensive hotels, flights, and even a deposit on a new place. She'd been preparing to leave, and she thought she could do it without me knowing. The thought that she was planning to walk away with half of everything, including our house, was infuriating. I was furious that she'd put her own selfish desires above everything we built together. Meanwhile, she kept spinning her lies, trying to make me doubt myself. She'd say things like, "You're just jealous," or "You don't trust me," as if I was the crazy one. She'd sneer when I brought up the money or her affair, acting like I was overreacting. But I knew better. I saw through her act. I knew she was planning to sell the house secretly, maybe even try to get me out of it so she could keep all the profit. That's when I decided I had to take serious action. I contacted a lawyer, started the divorce process, and prepared to fight for everything that's mine. The thing is, her bitchy attitude and her constant lying made everything worse. She'd lash out at me, call me controlling or paranoid, but I didn't care anymore. I was done being manipulated. I had to protect myself, my future, and what little dignity I had left. I realized that her whole life revolved around lying, cheating, and stealing. She lied about her feelings, her intentions, and her loyalty. And now she was trying to sell our house behind my back, as if I was just some obstacle in her way. I sat in my office one night, staring at the mountain of evidence I'd collected. I felt like a fool for trusting her for so long, but also relieved that I finally saw her true colors. I knew that once I exposed her plans, she wouldn't be able to spin her way out of it. I was going to fight for my rights, for the house, for the money she stole, and for my sanity. Because this was just about betrayal anymore. It was about standing up for myself against a woman who thought she could get away with everything. I realized I'd have to be ruthless to get through this, and I was ready for the fight. The next step was straightforward in theory, but in practice, it was a nightmare. I went to see a lawyer the very next day. I needed to get everything legally on paper before could do any more damage. I told the lawyer everything: her affair, the stolen money, her plans to sell the house, and her constant lies. The lawyer was sharp, asked pointed questions, and quickly confirmed what I already suspected. I had a solid case for divorce, and I could also pursue financial damages because of the theft. While I was dealing with the legal side, attitude got even more bitchy and confrontational. She accused me of trying to control her, ruining her life, and making her out to be the bad guy. She kept insisting she was innocent, even when I laid out all the evidence. It was like talking to a wall of lies. She'd fake tears, then glare at me with disdain when I didn't buy her bullshit. The worst part was her claiming I was the one cheating or controlling her, things I never did. It was clear she was spinning her web of lies to turn everyone against me, to justify her betrayal. Meanwhile, I was busy compiling everything: bank statements, texts, receipts, the legal documents. I even hired a private investigator to confirm her contact with the real estate agent and her plans to sell the house. Every new piece of evidence was another nail in her coffin. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not after everything she'd done. I was determined to fight for my rights, for the house, and for the money she stole. I knew she was planning to sell everything behind my back, and I had to act fast before she moved forward with her plans. One night, I caught her trying to access our joint account again. She was acting frantic, trying to withdraw more money or transfer funds. I confronted her, and she snapped at me, calling me paranoid and controlling. I told her I'd already contacted the bank to freeze our accounts and that she wasn't getting any more of my money. Her face twisted in anger, and she started yelling about how I was ruining everything, how she deserved a fresh start, and how I was just jealous of her success. Her bitchy tone was relentless, but I didn't back down. I told her if she kept trying to steal from us or hide her plans, I'd have her arrested for fraud. She went quiet for a while after that, but I could see the rage simmering just beneath her fake smile. I knew she was plotting something, probably trying to find a way around the legal restrictions I'd put in place. That's when I realized I had to be even more cautious. I started documenting her every move, installed security cameras around the house, and kept a close eye on her. I couldn't trust her anymore. She'd lied so much that I didn't know what she was capable of doing next. Her constant bitchiness and manipulations made me more determined than ever to see this through. In the midst of all this chaos, I also discovered she'd been secretly contacting her boss, David. I found emails where they discussed their plans, their feelings, and even her intentions to leave me for him. It was clear she'd been planning her escape for months, probably even before I found out. The betrayal cut deep. It was one thing to cheat, but to steal our money and plan to sell our home behind my back. That was a whole new level of betrayal. I felt like my entire world was collapsing around me, but I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her win. So I made a decision. I was going to fight her in court, expose her lies, and reclaim what's mine. I was done playing nice. I told her that if she kept trying to manipulate the situation or hide her plans, I'd take her to court for full custody of the house, for the stolen money, and for the emotional damage she caused. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I was going to make sure she paid for everything she'd done, and I would come out of this stronger, even if it meant going through hell first. Because I knew I deserved better than this, and I was done being a victim. The court process moved faster than I expected, probably because the evidence I had was overwhelming. I filed for divorce, demanded full custody of our kids, and initiated a claim for the stolen money. His reaction was as predictable as it was infuriating. She threw a tantrum, calling me controlling, jealous, and an abuser. She claimed I was trying to ruin her life, that she was the victim here. But I had all the proof, texts, bank statements, witness statements from the private investigator, that proved she'd been planning her exit for months, secretly selling our house and stealing from us. She tried to spin it in court, claiming she was just stressed, that her affair with David was a mistake, and that she never intended to hurt me. She looked me dead in the eyes and lied through her teeth, insisting she loved me and that everything she did was because she was under pressure. I couldn't believe how bitchy and manipulative she was being. Her tone was sharp, condescending, like she thought she could talk her way out of this. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew her game. She was trying to keep her options open, keep me confused, and buy herself time to sell the house secretly. The judge saw through her act pretty quickly. The evidence was too strong. She was ordered to leave the house immediately, and I was granted temporary custody of the kids. It was a huge relief, but also a stark reminder of how much she'd betrayed me. I started working with my lawyer to get everything finalized, dividing assets, retrieving the stolen money, and setting strict custody arrangements. Was furious, of course, yelling and throwing accusations during the hearings. She called me heartless, possessive, and said I was trying to ruin her life because I didn't trust her. But I didn't care. I knew the truth, and I knew I was fighting to protect what was left of my dignity and my family. Meanwhile, I kept uncovering more of her plans. I found out she'd already contacted a real estate agent to list the house. She was trying to sell it behind my back without my knowledge or approval. I was livid. I called the agent myself, told them I was the rightful owner and that she had no authority to list the property. I also made sure the court was aware of her attempts to sell everything, our furniture, jewelry, even our cars. I wanted to make sure she couldn't get away with anything. I also hired a forensic accountant to trace the stolen funds and recover as much as possible. The amount she'd stolen was staggering, and I was determined to get it back. Throughout all this, her bitchy attitude only intensified. She'd send me nasty messages, accuse me of trying to control her, and claim I was the reason she had to cheat and steal. But I saw through her lies. I knew she was just angry because she'd been caught. Her manipulative, lying, bitchy persona was on full display, and I was done playing her game. I realized she'd been planning her escape for a long time, using her charm and lies to keep me from catching on. But I had finally caught her, and now I was fighting to undo her damage. The emotional toll was huge. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry every day. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally taking control of my life again. I'd been by her betrayal, but I refused to let her ruin me completely. I was learning to stand up for myself, to be firm and ruthless when needed. I knew this wasn't over yet, but I was ready for the final battle. I had to see her face the consequences of her actions, and I was determined to win, not just for me, but for my kids and our future. I realized that true strength wasn't in hiding from pain, but in facing it head-on and fighting back with everything I had. In the end, everything unraveled faster than I expected. The court ordered her to pay back the stolen money, and I was awarded full custody of our children. The house, after a messy legal battle, was sold, and the proceeds were divided according to the court's ruling. Attempts to manipulate and sell everything behind my back failed spectacularly. Her bitchy, manipulative attitude didn't hold up in court. Her lies were exposed for everyone to see. She tried to spin it as me being controlling, jealous, and paranoid, but the evidence was damning. Her plans to run away with David, to steal our assets, and to destroy what little was left of our marriage all came crashing down. Looking back, I realize I learned some hard lessons. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty, or at least smart, to protect what's yours. I had to become more cautious, more strategic, and more ruthless to get her out of my life and to reclaim what she tried to steal. The emotional pain still lingers, but I've come to accept it as part of the process of healing. I can finally breathe again, knowing I fought for myself and my kids and that I won. It's crazy how someone can pretend to be so perfect for so long, only to reveal their true colors when you least expect it. Was a master at lying and manipulation, but her actions spoke louder than her words. Her constant bitchiness and lies were just her way of maintaining control, but in the end, the truth was too much for her to hide. She lost everything, her marriage, her reputation, and almost her freedom. And I'm left here, picking up the pieces, trying to rebuild a life that was nearly destroyed. If there's anything I want to say to anyone reading this, it's this. Trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small or insignificant they seem. People can hide their true selves behind a pretty face or a convincing smile, but the truth always comes out eventually. Protect yourself, your assets, and your sanity. When betrayal happens, don't be afraid to fight back, because sometimes that's the only way to get justice. And above all, don't forget that you're stronger than you think. Even when everything seems lost, you can find a way to survive, to rebuild, and to come out better on the other side.